mtazamaji na karibu. Okay. I was trying to do my Kiswahili. It failed terribly at that point.
All you got. Ujambo mtazamaji karibu. That's why your Swahili ended.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
That was nice. It's all right.
Serafina Robi, Kenancio Nyancha, Balo, the rest of the people. I mean, come. Vivian is saying that that's where my Kiswahili ended. I don't know what about her. I mean, we can do all manner of, and we'll give it to Regina. Asome Kiswahili.
Yes.
Kwa lugha ile ya Kiswahili. Good morning. I'm Victor Lo. Welcome to the program. This is Good Morning Kenya. Later on in the program, we'll be talking about the trouble in paradise. A lot is happening in the political circles as far as the governance system in this country is concerned. So far, the deputy president has been talking about, some of the grievances he has with the ruling party. We've seen a lot of instability in the ruling coalition as well. Raila Odinga also said the other day that he's come, actually he was invited to assist. How true is that? And much more in the program. That is going to form my discussion today, State of the Nation. I want us to take a look at that. Remember, teachers also calling for a strike. Collins Hoyu said that he's planning to have teachers go on strike because of some things that have not been honored by the government. Wilson Sossion will be joining me on set. He's a former NAT Secretary General as well as former nominated Member of Parliament, and Kevin Osudo, who is a governance expert. So stick around for that at exactly 7. So, Vivian, you roasted me. Now it's your turn.
Hujambo mpenzi mtazamaji, karibu katika kipindi cha GMK kikipeperushwa kutoka.
Okay.
Yes.
Ukiona mwenzako amenyolewa,
chako
kiu. Chako.
Anyway, a very good morning to each and every one of you who is tuned in on the show. This is Good Morning Kenya, and we are coming to you live from the broadcasting house, ready to ensure that we get you informed on several topics. And today, as Victor has already mentioned, we'll be having the political segment as well as a topic on manufacturing, which I will be tackling later on in the show. We'll be looking at manufacturing and just what its contribution, in building the economy, and also its contribution to Kenya's GDP, among many other questions that will be coming up from that topic. And in the house, we'll be having the manufacturing director, Hako Industries. His name is Peter Ndishu. You definitely want to stay tuned for that later on the show. Mike.
Good morning, Vivian.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
I am going to put the Swahili aspect aside because sitaki kucheka na sitaki, I don't want to be roasted. But welcome to the program. My name is Mike Migu, and today we are going to focus on something. 26 years ago, Kenya experienced one of the worst terrorism attack. That is the bombing of the U.S. Embassy in 1998. And now, 26 years later, we just revisit the incidences and see how far we have come in terms of how we deal with terrorism and how the country deals with these matters. And to join me for that conversation, I'll be speaking to Dr. Mustafa Yusuf Ali. We'll be having that conversation later on in the program, so you want to tune in and find out more. Good morning, Ray.
Shukran sana za dhati mpenzi mtazamaji kwa kujiunga nasi kwa kipindi unachokienzi cha Good Morning Kenya. Jina langu ni Regina Manyara. Tarehe 7 mwezi Agosti, karibu twende sako kwa bako. Tukujulishe yanayojiri.
We are sorry.
The last time Victor used sako kwa bako was in his
Well, there you go. There you go, Victor.
Kuna kitu hujasema hapo ka hadi
tamati.
Well, there you go. Just we can speak Swahili if we actually think about it. But
good.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. This is Good Morning Kenya. We're bringing you up to speed with stories that have been making headlines in the last 12 hours. looking at the local scene as well as what is happening internationally. And as far as international matters are concerned, Kenyans continue to do their very best at the ongoing Paris Olympics. I must say that the future is quite female if you're looking at the medal standings when it comes to Kenya's position there. A bit of disappointment here and there, but we'll have those updates as we proceed with in the headlines here. A segment that also welcomes your feedback. You can get us on KBC Channel 1, that is on X. I'm Regina Manyara. Now let's start off with the local scene, where President William Ruto has fired 4 board members of the new Kenya Cooperative Creameries Limited and replaced them with immediate effect. In a Gazette notice dated Monday, August 5th of this year, Ruto announced an appointment of Noah Ndemo Nyachai, Rollins Bet, Naisula Keko and Sarah Kano to both board. The appointments take effect from the Tuesday, that is the 6th, and will run all the way to March 9th of 2026.
The 4 new board members of the new Kenya Cooperative Creameries Limited board, the oldest and largest dairy processor in Eastern Central Africa, have replaced Geoffrey Noah Angwenyi, David Kipkirui Samoei, Rukia Rashid and Elisha Biward. The 4 were appointed on March 10, 2023 and was set to hold the positions until March 2026, but their appointment has been officially revoked following by a Gazette notice dated 5th of August 2024. The newly appointed 4 board members are Noah Ndemo Nyachai, Rollins Bet, Naisula Keko and Sarah Kano, who will be officially in office until March 9, 2026. The new entrants are expected to boost milk production in KCC's key facilities in Eldoret, Dandora and Nyahururu. It's 8 major processing factories and 13 milk cooling plants and several satellite coolers. Meanwhile, the head of state has received progress on the Tumaini initiative that seeks to ensure the people of South Sudan live in a peaceful, secure and thriving society. Receiving a briefing on the progress of Tumaini mediation consensus by Lieutenant General Retired Lazarus Subueyo, General Pagan Amumo Kiech, General Paul Malong Awan, General Mario Loku Thomas Jada, and Lual Dau, the Commander-in-Chief noted that the initiative has achieved immense progress, guided by the leadership and patriotism of all parties involved. Further, the President commended them for having made difficult decisions for the betterment of South Sudan. Abdiaziz Hashim for Good Morning Kenya.
And we understand that the head of state is on a visit of Embu County, where he's going to be visiting various areas of Embu County as well as Tharaka Nithi there, and some few constituencies including Ronyenjes. There will be keeping tabs on that on our subsequent bulletins. To politics now. Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party has endorsed ODM's proposal to have Junet Mohammed as the new leader of minority and Millie Othiambo as a minority whip in the National Assembly. According to ODM Secretary General Senator Edwin Sifuna, the Azimio parliamentary gathering endorsed the changes in the meeting where Wiper Party was represented. Meanwhile, Azimio One Kenya women MPs are now demanding a third of leadership positions in the coalition.
Following the nomination of National Assembly Leader of Minority Party Opiyo Wandayi to the cabinet, ODM Party proposed Minority Whip Junet Mohammed to take up leadership of the Minority Party, while Suba North MP Millie Othiambo becomes the Minority Whip. The proposal has now been endorsed by the Azimio One Kenya Coalition parliamentary gathering that was attended by members of all its constituent parties.
Kumekuwa na kikao cha wabunge wa Azimio na wameidhinisha kwa kimoja kwamba hao ndio watakuwa viongozi wa Azimio ndani ya bunge la kitaifa. Nataka nitangaze kwamba vyama vyote tanzo vya Azimio viko pamoja, vimeungana, hakuna mgogoro ndani ya muungano mzima wa Azimio. Tunazidi kufanya kazi yetu kama wale ambao ni wachache ndani ya bunge.
Meanwhile, Azimio One Kenya women MPs are now demanding for a third of leadership positions in the coalition.
We are requesting the party leadership that out of those 4 positions that are vacant, we would like the party leadership to consider to give one of those positions to a woman.
Led by Samburu West MP Naisula Lesuda, the MPs also want Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga considered for a top position at the ODM party.
We are not begging or asking for tokenism. We are saying she's capable. We have seen her leadership in the last parliament as the chair of finance. She did so well. She excelled.
ODM has brought up very quintessential women who can handle any situation.
The two positions of ODM deputy party leaders fell vacant following the nomination of Hassan Joho and Wycliffe Oparanya to the cabinet.
To Health, Public Health and Professional Standards Principal Secretary Meru has confirmed the official return of the Linda Mama program that was initiated in 2016 to cater for expectant mothers. Now, the Principal Secretary assured women that the program will be enhanced to cover prenatal care, normal delivery, cesarean section, newborn care, and any complications that may arise during and after delivery.
Linda Mama came into being in June 2016 after the free maternity services launched 6 years earlier was transitioned to the National Health Insurance Fund. The assurance by Public Health and Professional Standards Principal Secretary Meru comes after months of speculation about the fate of the initiative that aimed to alleviate the financial burden on pregnant women.
Yes, I want to confirm it's coming back, bigger and better. Because we are a listening government. We are a listening ministry. We hear.
PS Modoni says it will be more enhanced and will include proposals from public participation. The government maintains the revamped Linda Mama is one of the pillars of the Social Health Insurance Fund, which is set to replace the NHIF.
The packages for Linda Mama are going to cover prenatal care, normal delivery, cesarean delivery, and newborn care. So it's all encompassed together.
According to the Principal Secretary, money has been set aside for the enhanced program and more funding will be sought as the budget-making process kicks off.
In fact, this year alone, we have injected 2.3 billion shillings for Linda Mama program. And out of this, it's going to take care of the mothers who are pregnant. And it should not be a challenge going to the health facility to deliver.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Union of Nurses and Midwives has signed a return-to-work formula with the Ministry of Health after the government committed to implement the collective bargaining agreement, which includes risk allowance, uniform allowance, nurses service allowance.
In this CBA, we have gotten our risk allowance, we have gotten our uniform allowance enhanced by 5,000 shillings. We expect it to go up to 25,000 in subsequent CBS. And also the nursing service allowance to go to 30,000 in subsequent CBS.
I want to assure the union that as agreed in this collective bargaining agreement, we shall endeavor to deliver on our part as a government.
We want a collaboration in terms of human resources for health.
Serafina Robi for Good Morning Kenya.
Probably PS will say.
We'll also be keeping tabs on what the Ministry of Health has to say in regard to that case that was reported of Mpox, with some various outlets reporting that this particular patient is said to have recovered from that particular virus that is stemming all the way from Congo. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Now to the corridors of justice. An anti-corruption court has ordered that billionaire businessman Yogesh Devani be detained and prosecuted for the 7.6 billion shilling Triton oil scandal of 2008. Chief Magistrate Thomas Nzioka directed the prosecution to prepare fresh charges against Devani ahead of his arraignment in court on Wednesday the 7th. Now, this is after the court was informed that Devani had been on the run for 16 years and thus should be detained and denied bail at this stage. Ruth Wamboi with the details from the Skills of Justice segment.
A famous American heavyweight once said that you can run, but you can never hide. Businessman Yogesh Devani has been out of the court's jurisdiction since 2009. But alas, on Tuesday, Triton oil farm owner Yogesh Devani was on Tuesday presented before Anti-Corruption Chief Magistrate Thomas Nzioka, where the prosecution pushed for denial of his bond, citing he's been on the run for 16 years. Devani will be remanded at Kilimani Police Station and charged afresh on Wednesday in the 7.6 billion shillings Triton oil scandal, matter that was first brought to court in 2008 before Devani flew to the United Kingdom.
Prosecution shall prepare to severe the charge against the accused person in the present case and shall prefer new or fresh charge against the accused person as stated in your address, Mr. Walusana.
Early Tuesday, detectives from EACC arrested Devani at his Nairobi office before presenting him in court.
And in the interest of fair administration of justice, and while I'm very much aware of accused person's rights to bond under Article 59(1)(h) of the Constitution, I find it not appropriate at this moment to release the accused person on bonds when he has been brought under warrant of arrest.
Elsewhere, the High Court has issued orders barring police from arresting or detaining 2 MPs under the probe into the funding of Gen Z's protests. Justice Chacha Mwita gave the order pending the hearing and determination of the case filed by Embakasi North MP James Gakuya and his Embakasi Central counterpart Benjamin Meja Donk.
Justice Mwita ameweza kusimamisha kukamatwa kwao, kufanyiwa uchunguzi wowote ule mpaka tarehe 17 mwezi wa Septemba, wakati ambapo tutakuwa mahakamani.
To undermine the leadership of this honorable gentleman, to have them arrested in an attempt to intimidate them, because there is this misconceived notion that they have been sponsoring these anti-government protests.
The duo were allegedly picked from parliament buildings on July 31st and questioned over the matter. And the DPP and the DCI have been dealt a blow after being denied 30 days to detain 6 land fraud suspects. The 6 are suspected of defrauding 399 land buyers. The 6 who are suspected of defrauding 399 land buyers were given a cash bail of 500,000 shillings with no option of a bond.
The respondents are hereby prohibited from contacting potential witnesses or interfering with any investigations that are ongoing, and the matter will be mentioned on 10th of September.
Chief Magistrate Bernardo Choi further ordered the accused to be reporting to DCI headquarters twice a week until charges are preferred on them. Ruth Wamboi for Good Morning Kenya.
From the corridors of justice to matters defense, where the National Defense University Vice Chancellor Lieutenant General Jimson Mutai is challenging military tutors in Africa to leverage new technologies to address emerging security threats that are in their respective countries and continent in general. Now, Lieutenant General Mutai spoke Monday when he presided over the opening ceremony of the Regional Senior Professional Military Education Commandants Forum at a Nairobi hotel.
The senior leadership of African military education institutions from Ghana, Malawi, Morocco, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, Zambia and Kenya are meeting in Nairobi to brainstorm on how to address multifaceted security challenges in the continent.
Despite the opportunities provided by technological advancement, the human capital still remains our most valuable asset. Thus, we must invest in our people, providing them with the tools and knowledge they need to excel in their roles.
Participants noted the power of collaboration as a critical tool in enhancing security and stability in the continent.
We can share resources, expertise, and best practices. This collaborative approach is essential for fostering a unified and resilient defense strategy across the continent.
For 3 days, the military leaders will exchange ideas on best practices in academic and professional development of senior military and civilian national security officials at their respective institutions.
By leveraging our collective strengths and working together, we can overcome these challenges and significantly enhance professional military education across the continent.
Yusufa reporting for Good Morning Kenya.
To Meru County, where health workers' strike entered the 6th day yesterday, paralyzing operations in all public facilities. The health workers decried the failure by the county government to issue letters of appointment for all cadres of doctors as agreed in a collective bargaining agreement signed in September last year. The medics, led by the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers Meru Branch Secretary Moses Baineya, said that the implementation in the payroll was to take effect as from 1st of 2024 April, where the health workers have vowed to continue their strike until their grievances are met. Also among other issues of concern are inadequate staffing and pending promotions.
We agree at the county government that we shall be promoted. That has not happened 2 years down the line. What they have been telling us is that it doesn't have the budget, and as we're asking ourselves until when this budget shall be passed without our issues, and they tell us they are waiting for the budget. Unfortunately, the governor came out on 1st August saying that we wait for the budget, whereas she knows very well they had not requested for allocation of promotion, employment of health workers.
And we want to be very categorical because this is something that we agreed on November last year, that if these things are not implemented in totality, we are not going back to our facilities.
Well, that's a developing story that we're going to continue keeping tabs on. Now, 12 million children in Kenya face climate and disaster risk. This according to the Kenya Subnational Children's Climate and Disaster Risk Model, a report compiled by the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry in conjunction with the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. During its launch in Nairobi, Principal Secretary for Environment and Climate Change, Festus Ngeno, said the model will be a game changer in providing evidence-based information for strategic climate change adoption and possible interventions.
Despite Kenya's minimal contribution to global greenhouse gas emissions, the country experiences significant impacts from climate change. The Kenya Subnational Children's Climate and Disaster Risk Model, launched in Nairobi on Tuesday, shows of the 12 million Kenyan children facing climate change and other environmental risks, about 2.4 million in 7 arid and semi-arid counties are at high risk.
Climate change and other hazards impact these child-critical sectors. For example, when there's a flood, I think recently we saw schools had to remain closed because the dangers were too high or the infrastructure was destroyed.
We need to start engaging the children in such meetings because we, the children, we are left behind. We feel left out because if we are left out, we are the ones who are going to suffer.
Principal Secretary for Environment and Climate Change, Festus Ngeno, said through the model, possible intervention measures will be put in place to cushion vulnerable groups in the mapped-out counties.
I strongly encourage all stakeholders, including development partners who are here, to consider these findings when designing programs and projects aimed at addressing the children's vulnerabilities.
UNICEF Country Director Shaheen Nilofa, in acknowledging the exclusion of children in matters climate change, noted that the launch of the book, which is in line with the resolution of UNEA 6, also intends to marshal for funds from different stakeholders to help in humanitarian aid,
so that we are able to make a more comprehensive dent on the ecosystem that impacts children, and how we are able to ensure that our children inherit a livable and a more flourishing.
Partnerships will work. So could we get youth-led initiatives or youth-led organizations in those particular counties that we can work with, share, brainstorm on ideas on what is it that we need to do for those counties and for those children that are vulnerable.
The model enables stakeholders to understand the climate and disaster risk levels children and their communities face in Kenya and the suitable interventions. Opito Chemtai, Good Morning, Kenya.
Indeed, you're watching Good Morning Kenya, and this is the headlines. Now we cross to the borders, across the borders that is, where Kenya's Foreign Affairs Ministry through the Department of Diaspora Affairs has urged its citizens living in Lebanon to leave the country or move to safer areas as heightened tension sparks fears of widespread conflict in the Middle East countries. The tension heightened following the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas group.
Kenya has joined countries urging their citizens to evacuate Lebanon as fears of war mount. The Middle East region is experiencing heightened tension after Iran vowed revenge on Israel over the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas group. His assassination came hours after Israel killed Hezbollah commander Fouad Shukri in Beirut. It is feared that Lebanon-based Hezbollah, an Iran-backed group, could play a heavy role in any such retaliation, which in turn could spark a serious Israel response in Lebanon. Kenya's Foreign Affairs Ministry, through the Department of Diaspora Affairs, released a link and emergency contacts to facilitate the registration process. The State Department directed Kenyans with family members in Lebanon to call this number, provided for ease of safety coordination, or visit the department's office. For KBC Channel 1, I am Teresa Mutai.
Now, just in case you did not get the context there as we were airing that particular story, you are welcome to visit our website, that is www.co.ke. That way you're going to get furnished with the requisite information to pass on to your relative or yourself, given that we are streaming on our various social media platforms, so you're getting this particular broadcast live. Now, just to give you a quick summary of what is happening across borders is that Kamala Harris named Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her vice presidential pick. Remember, that particular country is going to be taken to the polls towards the end of the year, and the world in general was waiting to see which direction the Democratic flag bearer in the U.S. is going to pick for her vice president, or rather running mate, so to speak. Also looking at what is happening in the UK is that anti-immigration riots continue to mount there, with the latest report indicating that there's been an attack on a hotel housing asylum seekers. This was attacked by far-right riots, and it happened on August 4th there. Also keeping up on what is happening in Bangladesh is that after the Prime Minister stepped down and fled the country after weeks of protests started by students. Now, according to the reports that we are getting from our various links there, it indicates that this particular students who've led in this particular protest have now called upon Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus to come and become the new head of the country's interim government. That's just but a sneak peek of what is happening across borders. Be sure to tune into our various bulletins there to keep you updated on what is happening locally as well as across borders. We're going to continue keeping tabs on what is happening in the Paris Olympics of 2024. Amid a lot of questions on Kenya's performance there, especially on the male athletes who've been representing the country in this particular global showpiece. Is it time that we took a different turn when it comes to our training and preparations for this particular races as such? Does sports tourism actually earn us more? Remember, Eldoret and training camps within E10 are open even to foreigners to train in our style within our atmosphere, ecosystem and such. Is this what is ailing our performance in Paris? So much has been said. Be part of the conversation. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. I leave in the capable hands of my colleague Victor as he takes you through the conversations around matters of politics with his panel. So be part of it. Get tweeting.
Safaricom, proud sponsor of Team Kenya at the Olympics.
Now, Italy were on the brink of a remarkable turnaround. Italy had done it, and the contrast in emotions was huge. Japan were out after an epic 5-set encounter.
After a slow start, Noemi Fox on the far side took a different line to her rivals. Her exit speed from gate 2 propelled her into first place.
Canada had the first chance at match point. They thought they had it won. Somehow the Americans saved it, and Wilkerson would finally put the match away. The Canadians advanced to the quarterfinals. The number 2 seeded Americans were out.
Safaricom, proud sponsor of Team Kenya at the Olympics.
Could someone please pour some cold water on it?
Life can be very busy. But everyone deserves a laugh.
I have a billion you can be a lily funny guy.
We inject humor in your week's activities with episodes of Classmates.
You need to see this.
Camaraderie. Mischief. And everything in between. To keep you smiling all week long.
I have a few minutes of boredom, so why not?
Tune in to KBC Channel 1 every Monday to Friday at 6:30 p.m. for a daily dose of comedy.
Siku zinasonga sambamba na matukio yanavyojiri.
Kuyajua hayo, mbali na hamasa zilizopo kwingineko, shirika la utangazaji KBC limejitolea kuhakikisha ubora wa matangazo yasiyo na chuku.
Darubini huangazia mengi ya kusini na kaskazini, mashariki na magharibi, na kukuwasilishia kwa njia stahiki.
Ufasaha, usawa, uketo, pasipo kuegemea upande wowote.
Iwapo hutakishaka kwa unachoarifiwa, Darubini itakidhi mahitaji yako. Jina langu ni Nancy Onyancha.
Na mimi ni Harith Salim.
Jina langu ni Gladys Mungai.
Mimi ni Ahmed Jumabalo.
Nami ni Sarafina Robi.
KBC, angazo la Wakenya.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who is the man in this one?
And the laughter. Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Perfect. Welcome back to the program. Now, let's get into the discussion. It's now 5 minutes past 7 a.m. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. I want us to take a look at really what's happening in the country and, of course, beyond our borders. This is going to be forming part of our discussion for the next 1 hour, and you know how we do it here. We give you the best out of it. I just want to remind you that every morning is a revolution against the darkness. So there's every revolution everywhere. So when there is sunrise, that's a revolution against darkness. And now we are up and early again to do this. On my set, I have got Wilson Sosion, who is a former nominated member of parliament. He's also former NAT Secretary General. We all know about that. We'll be talking about matters education. Remember, NAT also issued a strike notice yesterday. Colin Soyu, who is the NAT Sec Gen, issued a stern warning yesterday that teachers will be going on strike. That one will be taking a look later on in the program, and you know how we do it. So Sion handles that better. And I also have Kevin Osido, who is Executive Director, that is County Governance Watch. He's also a governance expert and a political analyst. He wears many hats in that same head. Only that you cannot see there. They're invincible. Welcome, Kevin.
Asante sana.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
You have a copy of the Constitution with you. What does that mean to you in as far as governance is concerned? Let me start with that.
Thank you so much, Victor. This is the reference. This is really the, let me call it, quote unquote, the Bible.
Yes, of the
governance. Not necessarily of the land, but yes, of the land, because we have seen the degree of impunity against constitutionalism and constitutional elements, especially in our governance structures, where the levels of implementation of this constitution have not been very at par. But what it means to me is really the reference to what is happening at every step and at every point in our country. And so it turns out to be the reference, because almost everything that is happening, whether in the political sphere, in the social sphere, even in the economic sphere, is properly encapsulated here.
What's missing in as far as that is concerned as well?
There is nothing missing. Probably the spirit of constitutionalism again, and that means really the spirit, the desire to want to follow the constitution, to the spirit and to the letter. So to the letter is what is written, and to the spirit is what is in your heart, to be able to exercise the constitutional aspirations. So the implementation aspect really is what is missing.
Yes.
And probably we have also not done very well to audit that particular implementation. So we do not know the degree of what we have implemented based on our constitution, and also what needs to be implemented. But of course, there's a lot of work that is going on to be able to ensure that we audit the implementation and also undertake proper mechanisms to address the gaps that we keep facing.
There is that debate to have the Bomas draft back. The debate to have the Bomas draft, which was shelved. You know, it had so many gaps in it. It had so many limitations, and even some of the recommendations that were supposed to be implemented, but were never implemented. There is that debate somewhere being dangled across the corridors of justice, corridors of politics and power. Whether that will happen or not is also a matter of time. But Mwalimu Sosion, also to get your voice. Good to see you after a while.
Yeah, good to see you too.
You agree with him that there's some gaps in matters constitutional?
Of course, no constitution in the world is perfect.
Yeah.
We will never have a perfect constitution, but has it served us very well to strengthen governance? Did we take the full advantage to fully implement it so that then we can talk of reviewing it or bringing Boma's draft? I think we got one of the most progressive constitutions, the most progressive, and really what Kenyans deserve.
Yes.
And a constitution that gives the people of Kenya power. And it has taken time for people to exercise their rights. And now we can see the Article 10 of the Constitution, public participation, is gaining momentum.
Yeah.
Now Kenyans can question the finance bill, every bit of aspect. Kenyans can question the appropriation bill, and the government can respond to those particular concerns. I think this is progress being made. My concern is that the Constitution was not fully implemented. It was not allowed to mature. It wasn't. And this is by the political class whose interests are a little bit very strange. And we know in all political ecosystems there are cartels. And these are cartels of shortcuts. Cartels who want to thrive in lawlessness and in unconstitutional situations. And therefore the stringent provisions may not have been very, very
and they are well, those lapses.
And that is why now, and political interest. You know, a constitution is double-edged. It cuts both ways. And those who did not get their way, they want the constitution amended. Yeah? Not because the constitution is bad. How do we amend a constitution that we've not really fully implemented? And that is why I agree. 14 years down the line, we need a professional, technical audit of the Constitution. Proper audit. Check what has been implemented, what has not been implemented, what was necessary, what is not necessary. Because I think Jubilee administration went very far to try and hide behind the Constitution, weaponize this Constitution against institutions, take away rights of other individuals, institutions, and that the Constitution was not meant to disenfranchise Kenyans. It was meant to strengthen their democratic values and ideals and to align it with Vision 2030. If you look at Vision 2030, one of the political pillars is that Kenyan politics must be issue-based. Take it out of tribal cocoons. Yes. Take it out of cultisms of political parties which are domiciled individuals. Political parties in Kenya are still personal properties of individuals. And when it gets to elections, you can only get a nomination ticket depending on how loyal you are or depending on how you contribute. And this disenfranchises the free democratic processes and strengthening of political institutions. So I think the cartels who control systems and who control institutions have undermined the Constitution.
But
and I don't believe personally.
It's our own making.
I don't believe personally. I don't believe personally.
Because when you talk about cartels,
I'm one person who doesn't believe in throwing out this Constitution and starting another confusing process that we want to recall the Bomas draft. Bomas draft died. Kilifi draft died. We already have a Constitution of Kenya 2010. Let us proceed
what if we just
from
take
here.
a bit?
What if we need to
infuse the Kilifi draft and the Bomas draft?
Let's do an audit that does not promote selfish, current, political, emotional interest of certain individuals.
There are some bits of governance,
Let us
Mheshimiwa. There are some bits of governance which were left out in Kilifi draft and Bomas draft, which I think if fused with this one, no wonder we're talking about, reviewing because it has not been fully implemented. So what if we pick the two drafts, the Kilifi and the Bomas draft, and fuse in as far as governance is concerned?
We cannot be planning forever.
Even presidents.
Victor, we cannot be planning forever. Even the U.S. Constitution, which was proclaimed in 1779, has undergone very little amendments. Why? Because the Americans themselves respect the institution. They respect the democratic ideals of the country. If we did that, we will not need to be gribbling around looking for documents that guides us
very
in
good.
everything.
So, yes.
And if you have a constitution that generally guides, without going into details, we cannot over-constitute and we cannot over-legislate for us to behave in a certain manner. If we are inherently corrupt and we are ruining governance,
I hear you.
that is who we are.
I hear you. You have your coffee. Please sip it. Sip it.
No, the coffee will not go. You brought us to.
The thing is, Kevin, when we have the two drafts, the Kilifi, the Bomas, the discussion is that the Bomas draft and the Kilifi draft had some things that perhaps if brought right now in this constitution, it has not been fully implemented. So if the two are fused with this one, will it make it 100% fully?
You see, Victor,
complete?
First and foremost, the discussion around Kilifi and Bomas and Naivasha, remember there was also a Wako draft.
Yes.
Now,
Wako is Kilifi. It is Kilifi.
That discussion is neither here nor there in my view. Because if you look at the kind of constitution that we are making pronouncements over, it has very clear provisions of an amendment process. Now, there is a reason why there was no keen interest in both the Wako Kilifi and the Bomas drafts. But also take note of the fact that what we have is largely borrowed from the Bomas process. Now, all these processes did not go through a mechanism similar to what produced this particular document. Remember that even before we had the 2010 Constitution, we had a referendum in 2005. Now, one process was heavily government-driven, okay? The other processes have been opposition-driven. And then we had a middle ground of giving the people their space and voice. And that is why today every Kenyan will tell you that I have my rights. And they'll tell you all sovereign power belongs to the people, to me. Now, there's a reason why Kenyans seek to want to identify with the Constitution of Kenya 2010. The question around auditing of the implementation of the Constitution should give us an opportunity to address the gaps, including the gains that we have made out of this Constitution, and therefore looking at what do we need to do. And this Constitution has given us a very clear mechanism on processes of amendments, what needs to happen, how it's supposed to happen, and Kenyans have made those attempts. Those attempts have been made in many other different platforms, particularly with special reference to the BBI process. Now, if you look at what we are calling politicization of constitutionalism, what probably Mheshimiwa is referring to as cartelism, there are people who will not give space to proper, effective, and efficient constitutional implementation. And it is because it gets to a point where they feel that their interests are threatened. So in threatening their interests, they go back to their enclaves and ask themselves, what do we have in our hands?
Yes.
So whatever they have in their hands could be money, it could be a lot of political power to decide who becomes president, who becomes governor of Siaya, where I think I have interests or whatever, who becomes, who gets nominated from NAT. Many, many things that happen.
Did you just say that live on national television, Kevin?
Maybe I made a mistake, but I'm so sure that I can defend it. So, and so going back to all these gaps that we are facing, including devolution aspects. So processes of Kilifi, boomers, and all the opportunities that we have had, Victor, in my view, give us a proper opportunity now to speak about the gains that we have made from our Constitution and indeed the losses. And I think that the losses are quite a number, including the fact that we have constitutional commissions that have not been given enough power to do their work. Why would, for example, the president be the one appointing an Inspector General of Police? Of course, executive working together with Parliament, vetting and all those processes. Today we are having engagements with vetting of cabinet secretaries. And you look at the difficulties that Kenyans even still have against their constitutional aspirations to get the right leaders that they have against nominations, appointments, and all these gaps. Look at the cries around funding of constitutional commissions, you know. The judiciary wants to do its work, but the appropriation has to be done through Parliament, okay? Which of course is exercising its constitutional right. But then you ask yourself, to what degree do you massage each other's interests and egos to be able to meet the constitutional threshold of funding or support for various institutions to do their work?
Recommendation?
The police and all those. So the recommendations have been done. And one of those, in my view, is fully implement the Constitution. Let's start from there. Fully implement the Constitution. If the Constitution says that we have a schedule called Schedule 4 that determines functions of both national and county governments, release the counties, release the functions to the county governments. Then you maintain your constitutional expectations of national government to do their work.
So is that debate mature? Asking all of you, the debate to bring the draft constitution, because part of that 2004 proposal was to bring the presidential kind of system and governance and have 14 regional governments. Is it even attainable right now? Is it even attainable right now in our current kind of dispensation?
Whether it's attainable, I think let us not put the cart before the horse. First of all, let us have an audit of the Constitution. And once we have a professional audit of the Constitution, we must conduct civic education to Kenyans on the outcomes of the audit.
Yes.
And from the outcome of the audits, we will then be able to see
for the sake
what
of
amendments.
For the sake of my audience, what are some of the audits, some of the things that you'd want to be audited for them to understand that that if you're putting it aside and fusing with the other one, you know?
To me, if I can summarize, number one, what has been implemented and what has not been implemented.
Very good.
And to what extent. And to what extent, that's a question. Question two, to what extent have the people of Kenya been enabled by this constitution to exercise their powers directly
Fully.
or to what
Fully.
extent? Yeah, because you've raised issues of submissions of citizens in, say, for example, vetting of public officers. When you talk of public participation, how have Kenyans been accommodated within the process of public participation? What is the quality of public participation?
Yes.
Have we even legislated how public participation is supposed to be conducted so that we are able to implement this constitution? Number 3, what are the various pieces of legislations that have not been enacted to implement this constitution? We are still talking about 2/3 gender rule in 2024, and that 2/3 gender rule as affirmative action has got a timeline in life. In fact, it should not even go beyond 2 elections.
Yeah.
But we are already done with 2 elections, and we've not even implemented it. We are still arguing about it. Then number 4, interpretation of this constitution. How have the various institutions interpreted and implemented this constitution? I've got a big issue with Chapter 15, Independent and Constitutional Commissions. The Independent and Constitutional Commissions interpreted the independence to mean they're actually 4th or 5th arms of government, that they can do things on their own without reference to anybody and even do bad things. And they ended up being tyrannical institution. I can quote the Teacher Service Commission, Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and some of the directives they give, which are unconstitutional against Kenyans, because of that interpretation of independence is actually working against Kenyans. And in some circumstances, the independent commissions have been weaponized by the executive against the people.
Meaning they're not they're not now independent as per se.
They're not independent as they were. And in fact, when you talk about funding, some of them even should be wound up, should be scrubbed like SRC, and others should be given limitations of powers. And then within the same interpretation, to what extent do the independent commissions, for example, do the county governments and national government interact and work together? Of course, there's a provision in the Constitution about consultation by the different levels of government. But you see counties also, they want to be another independent, they want to be independent states, doing things on their own, but they cannot generate their own revenue. They rely on the national taxpayer to provide the same. And then, very lastly, the economic sustainability of this constitution. Those are the various questions. Like, for example, should we really have 47 counties devolved in that particular manner, where that requires huge budgets, and the budgets do not even go to development. The funding goes into recurrent employment and political activities. Because if I compare 2 devolved functions, one, national government CDF is a development devolved fund that focuses on the constituency oversighted by members of parliament, and the county government. There is more work in the CDF than the counties. Yet the counties receive billions and billions. Allocation is about... let's be factual.
Taking into account, I just want to make a point of what CDF can do.
No, you'll come in.
There's also a cap
you'll come in. Because when you look at CDF, it's little funding. It's modest. But the work it does, there are no more harambes in school. And a lot of good development is being done. And very little money goes into recurrent. But compared to county government devolved funds, county governments receive a lot of money, but very little goes into development. It's money being wasted in political activities that are difficult to account. And so there are many things to audit with respect to the services and the benefits that Kenyans are deriving from this constitution. Are Kenyans getting the full satisfaction, full fulfillment, full sovereignty, full power that they envisage in this constitution. Those are salient questions. But if we adulterate with political interest, that now let us change this thing.
Allow me to
because
bring
we want some things to favor us in 2027, the way BBI was brought in.
I think, Victor, Mheshimiwa has almost raised a number of what needs to be done. But I want to also invite him to look at the pros and cons, and particularly looking at one area which I do not think that we've done very well, and that is in legislation. So there was an expectation that even as we talk about the Constitution is basically a global framework that guides how we engage. But then there is that desire to also want to put in supportive mechanisms.
Yes.
So one of those things that we have not done very well is to be able to put supportive mechanisms for the Constitution in terms of laws that support the Constitution. Now, we have some of the laws have been put in place, but there are no regulations to give them effect and fit to work. It's like giving birth to a baby and you say you are now 14 years old, but you've not done very well to help this baby to be able to speak proper English or their local language or whatever language that they speak. You have not done very well to help support this baby to begin to walk. If the baby sleeps a bit, unamchapaki, why are you walking like that, you know? Or you want to get tyrannical without necessarily looking at support to be able to encourage the baby, you've done very well, but how about if you make this step like this, So we have not done very well, and I think that is ascribed to the kind of political system that we have, which is is locked within 5 years and is too full of politics. And even the people that we have given the mandate, like Parliament, whether National Assembly or the Senate, depending on what their responsibilities and the laws that they can be able to pass are concerned, is too gobbled in siasa. The political play is too much that it now takes away what the citizens expect from these processes. And in that particular mechanism, Mheshimiwa Sosion has mentioned public participation. Victor, we do not even have a national law on public participation. In fact, what we are using is imaginations of the court and the people who listen to the courts, to the evidence, and the evidence that is deduced based on what is happening. So when we say, for instance...
National law to put something like a threshold.
Precisely, to guide what we call public participation. So if you go to counties, for example, all the counties have enacted public participation acts. But it's largely based on, for instance, the expectation that if you have a notice on 2 widely read newspapers, then you've already reached the people. The question is, how many people will buy those newspapers? And in the wake of the Gen Z movement and the generation, people who don't even read newspapers, yet they have a lot of information that is not even on the papers. So how about thinking about other alternative mechanisms to be able to engage with the public, social media, going to the youth where they are, and even supporting and capacity building the people that are supposed to undertake the public participation processes. Look at a very clear issue like impeachment of governors. Why would one governor want to go through 9 impeachments? What is happening? Against the expectations at one, the County Governments Act does not even refer to the governor as governor. What the law says is that you are the chief executive officer of a county. So imagine Mumia's Sugar Company or this wonderful broadcasting house we have here going for impeaching the MD for 9 times. And you go to court, unarudishwa. It means there's some
those are politics.
Serious issues that we are missing. So we need to diffuse the constitutional aspirations and expectations of Kenyans from politics. And what we need to do that is to look at the gains that we have made out of progressive successive processes in terms of the Vitukwa ground. What is the context and how can we cure them without necessarily going back to the political angle? Because the other mistake that we have done is to give too much power to Parliament, which is correct because their mandate by Constitution is to legislate and to pass laws. But there has to be a mechanism which is missing, Victor, in terms of what we call sovereign power. So that, for example, If the president nominates Mheshimiwa Sosion as CS Education, I don't know why he has not been nominated as CS Education. And we have issues. No, don't tell me politics, Mheshimiwa.
No, those are politics.
You've been a politician. Why can't you play politics? Then the citizens have issues with the Mheshimiwa Sosion.
You're so unpredictable.
No, Victor. You're asking us to audit the challenges.
Let's take a break. Can we?
Okay.
Oh, you take 3 seconds. Just.
Yeah, I wanted to say, so that we give the citizens a recall mechanism of addressing challenges like approving a CS that you still have issues with. You know, the moment it goes through Parliament and then they submit a report and a list to the president, what follows is the appointment. But there are still serious challenges.
Let's take a break. Hold that. I'll come back to you. Why are you not? Why are you? There's a very good question.
Because he's imputing improper motive.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
France welcomes the world for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. In this edition, heroic Team Kenya is pushing boundaries as well.
An Olympic gold medal.
More significantly, Kenya is intent on claiming victory at the quadrennial sporting event comprising of 45 sports that will be staged from 24th of July through to the 11th of August. Here comes a dose for everyone.
Yes, it is!
For the athlete, it is chasing a dream of a lifetime. And for the fan, witness history in the making, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
It is always a good time on Bridge over Congo.
Catch us every Saturday from 10 p.m. till midnight.
Join me, the Rumba Supreme Leader, the Grand Ayatollah Simeon Mfumu Kimbango, and
Winnie Marie Jose, Bridge over Congo.
Mungu esilaka na nzungu te kasielenge Mungu esilaka na
Chumvi huyeyuka chunguni, lakini ladha yake hubakia.
Okay, nimeanza before that. Okay, sawa. So the drumbeats of having a constitutional amendments and just revisiting what happened in 2004, the Bomas draft, the Kilifi draft, or the Wako draft, as you may call it, is being heard from, just beyond the hills. And, I like what the two gentlemen have said here, that some of the constitutional, this guiding principle here, the Constitution, is like a Bible. But then some of them have been overtaken by the political class, which they are so much aware of, and they take advantage of that. At this particular point, who is suffering? Kenya. Because if you don't fully implement this, and we are going to bring another form, then it would mean we will be going for a referendum. So, Sion, do you agree with me, or do you disagree with me when we say
now
just a minute, when we talk about revisiting that Bomas draft? Of course, now we have got 47 counties. You talked about the economic aspect of it. What if we bring it then to 14?
Now, even if you change the forest and the monkeys remain the same, the monkeys will continue doing their game. This constitution has not been allowed to mature fully or to be fully implemented basically by the political class. And the political class will always run the affairs of the state as government. And there was a question of enabling legislation. Of course, several pieces of legislation were developed under the CIC, Constitution Implementation Commission, the Nyachai, that was led by Nyachai. But we saw a lot of lobbying, cartels. I love saying cartels because those are cartels.
They have
trying to win,
trying
to push in their interests within those pieces of legislation. One such gap that has been talked about is a legislation on public participation. The principle of public participation is in Article 10. And it is very serious for Kenyans. What do you do about public participation? You don't just advertise in some hidden corner of a newspaper and you cheat people that you have conducted public participation. We've seen this particular clause of the Constitution abused by public institutions. And alluding that they've conducted public participation because they've done some advertisement in some corner of a newspaper or invited a few correct individuals to come and rubber stamp their policies, and they pronounce that we've conducted public participation. And I can quote many instances. Even the new curriculum in Kenya. The new curriculum in Kenya, competency-based curriculum, should have gone through a referendum to be approved by Kenyans. And that is, referendum is the highest level of public participation. And so, the provision of public participation, the power has been denied the people of Kenya by deliberately not enacting a piece of legislation that guides. It will give the threshold on what needs to be done. If there is an item on the table, the first thing you do is to conduct quality, detailed civic education. So that then Kenyans, for example, if it is a new curriculum, then you come out, conduct a summative evaluation of 844, educate Kenyans that this is the outcome of the 844. There is need for a new curriculum because of ABCD, and Kenyans will understand. Then now you go out and develop a curriculum design and then take it through Kenyans, through public participation, outline how you will implement, where you will get the money, how you are going to train teachers, and then Kenyans can say, yes, we can be convinced. Then take it through a referendum, let them take a vote. But you see where we wake up, and you have an arrogant minister in an office who pronounces and orders everybody to do things. That is contravention of the Constitution of Kenya. And you see, this has been tried, it has been cured, but every curative step leads us to even a more terrible, disastrous level. And so we have not complied, I dare say, from evaluation of activities and actions of institutions. We have never developed and complied with the provision of Article 10, quality public participation on key decision making in this country. I aver and I believe that the first piece of legislation that should have been developed properly and guided is a piece of legislation on public participation. What is public participation? To what extent? And on any item, to me, package a clear communicating message, do civic education on people. Like what we are seeing in county government in the name of public participation, those acts also, are they really effective enough to provide public participation?
I wanted to say that...
Number two, lastly, on the same, referendum. We must have an act covering referendum.
Why?
And you must allow Kenyans
when
to
and
conduct.
what point it should be done.
We can have referendum on many issues. Yes. Many countries, many jurisdictions like the UK, even a county can have a referendum. If they want to to take a vote on a given decision within a county, allow the people to have a referendum, and allow IEBC to conduct a vote. If Kenyans want to conduct a referendum on any item, on anything that is of major national concern, then subject it to a vote. And that is why we must have a flexible, cost-effective provision of conducting referendum, and therefore we must have an act on referendum. Because the referendum is the highest level of public participation.
You know very
and
well.
that is how to allow
you know very well that when it comes to a referendum, the political class will not allow you. Parliament will hijack it.
That is a fact.
And amend some of those things that will go for public participation.
Parliament is there to implement the wishes of the people.
And that is why I'm saying that Parliament will
through legislation, through representation.
Kevin.
Yeah, Victor and Mheshimiwa, one of the things that we have not done very well again is really to give the people what is due from the Constitution. And if you look at all the steps that the citizens are making to either push for the implementation of the Constitution or to seek to leave it and its aspirations, all these processes are being thwarted. For example, if you say that all sovereign power rests in the hands of the people, okay, and shall be exercised only in accordance with this Constitution. Very correct. But what if people decide to go and get back the power? Like we have seen in Occupy Parliament. Is a clear subversion, okay, of constitutional aspirations and a huge vote of no confidence to the institution of Parliament. But yet, the Constitution has told us that those people there are your representatives. Why don't we sit back and ask ourselves, why did Kenyans go and occupy Parliament? What does that mean to us? Okay? Move this further, because I want us to think through all these gaps that we see, even as we leave this Constitution. And people say, Ruto must go. Okay? And it is so deep and right at the core of the door of almost everyone, to the level that a finance bill is quashed, the cabinet is thrown back home, you know, many things are happening and the opposition is getting into government. Yet the Constitution says if you want Ruto to go, there is a clear procedure on how Ruto can go or must go. But then the process starts and ends with the same people that you are saying, hata nyinyi hatuwataki, we have already occupied that parliament, you know. What are these recall mechanisms, therefore, that give strength and power to the citizens to be able to check and hold the government accountable? Because accountability is another gap.
Yes.
Okay? That we have not seen very properly exercised, despite Mheshimiwa is saying Article 10 on national values and principles, but largely on Chapter 6, which is purely the question that Kenyans are saying, huyu Victor, hata hiyo suti yenye amevaa, if you look at his salary for 6 months, cannot buy that suit. But we have a regulation that says we must undertake a lifestyle audit. Now, the way in which Kenyans look at the constitutional implementation vis-a-vis, again, vitu kwa ground, and the mechanisms of redress. We have not done very well to be able to strengthen those mechanisms of redress that make the citizen feel that indeed we have power that is vested in our hands by the Constitution.
Amazing submission there, but again, allow me to pick your minds on this one. When you look at that draft and the kind of system that we have right now, it proposed parliamentary system of governance. And you see through the 2010 Constitution, we had artificial kind of experiments, the Grand Coalition, the handshake, the broad-based kind of government. What somebody would argue, or let me ask you this, do you think now if we infuse those drafts into the new Constitution right now, perhaps go to a referendum, will it be the silver bullet to cure what you have right now? Because what you have today is a broad-based governance. This is to all of you.
No, broad-based is purely coalitions. And in all democracies, you allow
Grand Coalition, handshake.
And the laws of this country, the Political Parties Act, allows post-election agreements. The law is there so that we sanitize politics, so that we don't do things in an unorthodox manner, so that you don't undermine the members of your party. We do business through the front door. And so coalitions are allowed. If certain parties want to engage in coalition, they can do coalitions with government, and that has been done all over the world. With
the minority party, not opposition, because currently we don't have a position.
There is no post-election.
By the way, this constitution does not establish an opposition.
There's no opposition. There's a minority.
There is no opposition according to
and that is what Victor is asking.
There is,
because all the others have had.
Because this constitution established a presidential system of government. That is what Kenyans.
But the Boma's draft was talking about the parliamentary.
Listen. No. Boma's draft is dead. It is 6 feet.
But that is what they're trying to follow.
You cannot resurrect it. Resurrection will come.
The process is
resurrection will come on Judgment Day. Resurrection will come on Judgment Day. We have a constitution here. It is a strong presidential system with independent arms. That is what it is. When you go to parliament,
with the minimum checks and balances.
When you move to parliament, parliament has got majority party and minority party. In fact, a party that is not in power, that does not produce a president, can be majority in parliament, depending on the number that you get. Yes. The constitution so says. If a given political party wins more parliamentary seats, majority parliamentary seats, and it has not produced a president, that party controls parliament. And that is how this is envisaged. So let us not go back again and we talk of we want parliamentary when we are already actively in a presidential system. How can we make presidential system work to the satisfaction of Kenyans? That's a big question in the House. Because if we still live in the hangovers of a system that is buried, that is 6 feet deep, and you want to resurrect it in a certain manner, it cannot work. Let us strengthen the independent arms the way they are, strengthen parliament, make it work in the best interest of the people, strengthen the judiciary, make it work, make the executive accountable, and I think the key thing that he has raised is what we call accountability structures. We don't have accountability structures in governance. And the other day the president said, the problem of Kenya, because you begin diagnosing the problems of Kenya in terms of governance. One is corruption that is so deep, and that is a norm of the day in public institutions. And number two, incompetencies in leadership of public institutions. Is that what Kenyans envisaged in this constitution? Why did we talk of vetting people being appointed? Why did we talk of rigorous process that somebody must go through before getting into an office? Because we want competent people to run offices. Why do you have clause on integrity, chapter 6? Because we want people who are above board, who are as Caesar's wife when it comes to running public institutions, but not corrupt individuals. Like we want to revitalize agriculture in this country, but you hear all of a sudden somebody is packing sand and is being supplied to farmers. You wonder where the hell these things are happening around us every day. So these are some of the issues, the accountability structures. Can we then revisit the aspect of provisions of integrity? Can we then revisit the aspect of dealing with corruption decisively? Can we really have a strong legislation? And I think the president came out the other day, so that then we don't weaponize issues of corruption. You create trumped up charges against him and say he's corrupt, remove him from public office. But when you want to sustain a case in court, you lack evidence. Because you are weaponizing corruption for political expediency. Can we fight corruption in the true sense, where we are able to assemble data and facts and evidence and criminalize and punish those involved in corruption? Because if we don't develop legislation to deal with some of these vices, which the Constitution provides us,
Victor,
then we'll be very wrong. So accountability structures is key, and then wastage of public, and this boils down even up to wastage of public resources. For example, all this money that goes to school, does it give value? Does it give value?
So revisiting is not the silver bullet. Victor, visiting the draft and diffusing whatever we have is not a silver bullet. Auditing.
Now, when you talk of auditing,
thank you.
Let us have a proper framework of audit.
You know that
and after the audit, Let's do proper civic education.
See the way he's sat.
Yeah.
No, because he's satisfied. At least the cartels are not following him here.
I get it.
The people have blocked him from being CS education.
No. That one now is imputing improper motive. Nobody has blocked me. I never applied. And anybody being appointed to be CS is at the discretion and pleasure of the president. We discuss the constitution and we don't discuss other things.
I didn't say president, I said the cartels.
No.
Victor, you raised a very important question, and I do not know why Mheshimiwa is running away from it. And he keeps running away from that question.
Which one?
On Kilifi, Wako, Bomas, all those processes. Remember that we have talked about constitutional implementation. As long as there is no political goodwill to implement the constitution, it will not be implemented. And that is why year in, year out, we keep circumventing the process and going behind it in a manner to suggest that Kenyans are not informed about what is happening. Now, the first thing that we need to do is to depoliticize the constitutional implementation.
Right.
And this is purely across the board. So that, for example, once you have been made president, you are no longer president of your political party and of the shareholders of that particular party.
You don't hold any office in any political party.
Exactly. And not just that. Kenyans expect that the politicization of the presidency stops at the level of the swearing in. Whether you are president, deputy president, governor, and all those
So you become a
public servant.
Unity.
You become a public servant with the desire to want to meet the expectations of the people for service delivery.
And what of the proposal to have a president not belonging to any political party as a symbol of national unity?
You see, the moment we say that the Elections Act will suggest that for you to run for any office, you must be a member of a political party or an independent candidate. So that is already constitutional. We cannot suggest that you don't have to belong to a party. We have a law that says only two ways, that you are a member of a political party that sponsors and supports you to run, or you are an independent candidate. But then we have precedences that have been set. How many elected members do we have even in Bunge today, out of 290 of them, who are independent candidates? They can't go past 13, okay? Even up to the county levels, because of experiences of running for office as an independent candidate. But yet, we have very successful stories of people who have been independents and done very excellent jobs, or have been members of political parties and have also not done very well. But of course, that was not my initial point. The submission, Victor, is that let us depoliticize constitutional implementation. And in that depoliticization, we look at aspects of professionalism, okay? We look at aspects of looking at the person and service delivery. Now, moving forward is to also look at what are you bringing on the table based on why Kenyans voted for you.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of times we have also not given the citizens mechanisms to want to address concerns that touch on their interests and largely service delivery. Because remember that even in the wake of the Gen Zs, as people were saying, oh, you are leaderless, but you see the process is on nominations, okay? And they are saying, no, we don't want even to be part of that process. We just want a professionally run government. It gives us an opportunity to begin to think through how we use the constitutional, the constitutional inputs to want to give power to the citizens to be able to exercise that sovereign power and right through accountability measures. Now, why talks about Bomas, Kilifi, and all these others is because certain people are not in government. So, we must also stop personifying the Constitution, making the Constitution to make special references to persons, individuals. For example, that if Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga is not the opposition leader, then we must create an office. That has been a conversation that is ongoing. But we're also forgetting, Victor, that as you rightfully said, the Constitution envisions a very strong presidential system, and that it also creates proper mechanisms of checks and balances. So we have strengthened the institution of presidency, and we have heavily invested in that, but we have not also strengthened the checks and balances.
Yes.
So that, for example, in Bunge, there is no reason why you should be voted on an opposition ticket, then you cross the floor, Victor, and you vote for the government on very fundamental bills that touch on the interests of the people.
Allow
so
me,
even,
Victor,
even for checks and balances,
Victor, to interject.
at that particular moment.
I'm not stopping him, but I think...
But you see, you told me that I will have my time, Mheshimiwa.
He's interjecting.
Because I come from an area where we respect our elders.
I'm enriching your contribution.
Enrich him.
Do you know today, President William Ruto is a member of United Democratic Alliance, nominated by United Democratic Alliance. He can be president of Kenya. But the majority party in parliament can be Orange Democratic Movement.
Correct.
That is how this constitution envisages. So that then there is no link between who is at the executive and who is controlling parliament. Controlling parliament is a political party that produces the highest number of members, or a party that forms the biggest coalition in accordance with the Political Parties Act.
Yeah.
So that then this kasumba of saying we must have an opposition and we must have a government in parliament is wrong. Parliament is independent from government. It's independent from the executive.
Do me a favor, Mwalimu. Do me a favor.
Today, this is what Kenyans should know.
1 second. Do me a favor. Do me a favor. That I'm going to treat that as your closing remark.
Oh.
So you have a minute to do that. Go ahead.
Is there time winding?
1 hour is over.
So today, today we can have even wiper Democratic Party with majority members of parliament and Kalonzo losing presidential election, and they will produce a speaker of the National Assembly, they will produce majority leader, they will chair almost all the committees in parliament, but they will not produce a president. UDA can still have, for example, William Ruto as president, and they become minority where? In the House.
Yeah.
And they operate within the dictates of the rules of the House and the standing orders.
Yeah.
That is the democratic dispensation where we are. And I think that civic education first, even during the audit, should go to the people so that then people can decide, oh, okay, so this is about electing a president differently. You can run your executive, but then depending on the number of members of parliament that you win, then you can control the House. So this kasumba of the president must be the one controlling the House is wrong. Yeah. And we cannot go and force it. Okay. That is what we call in theater force resolution.
Thank you.
You don't force it. Let us allow as was envisaged.
Let's put it this way.
Let's have it as it was.
10 seconds. Make a full stop in 10 seconds. Make a full stop.
I have finished.
Accountability.
So that Victor, because he interjected the point I was making.
All right.
That election needs to be undertaken through the entire electoral process, which starts from process 1 all the way to the 6th process, because it's a whole electoral cycle. And so the investments that we make at the political level also needs to be done at the citizen level, and indeed even up to the institutional level. There's no reason why, for example, IEBC should say that we didn't do what the citizens wanted because we don't have money. For example, if I can sit in my house and do M-Pesa and send, for example, money to Victor, and that if it goes to Mheshimiwa Sosion and is not the person I wanted to send the money for, I can recall. It's both questionable, and I can still recall it back to me and ensure that it is done. Why can't we do similar mechanisms even for our elections? Digitize it and ensure that all these loopholes and gaps that we face, that therefore dent the sovereignty of the people, are actually addressed. That we don't have to stop IEBC recruitment because you are not happy or because you have brought in your friends that I am uncomfortable with. The systems must be allowed to work in the manner in which they were expected. And lastly, so that I make my closing remark, is to also look at the counties. It's a good thing to talk about 14 regional governments, but what is the objective? Why Kenyans opted for devolution is so that services are driven closer to the people. Decision making is done right there. resource appropriation is done by people that we know.
Yes.
The MCA of my area in West Uyoma is someone I can be able to ask, kwa nini haukuweka pesa kwa barabara? That is what Kenyans had expected. But we don't see that being lived even as we talk about constitution and its implementation. Finally, is my desire that we live to implement the constitution in its letter and the spirit and in total, and that we empower the citizens, particularly looking at major gaps, like we have said here, public participation.
Thank you.
Truth of it is that counties are really trying, and for example, in Nairobi County right now, we have a partnership with the county government to do a status report on public participation, which we hope that will be used to be able to also inform the other counties and also to recommend certain progressive measures.
Now, what
for
I
the
like about
national
this
law.
discussion is that we talk about real issues, and when we talk about constitution, it touches everybody, from the president to the last person who's just been born right now. And the good thing is that we need to adhere to the copy of the constitution. Kevin Osido, who is the executive director, County Governance Watch, and governance expert and policy expert. Thank you so much for joining us. Wilson Sossion, former Secretary General and nominated member of Parliament. My name is Victor Lo. Good morning. Bye-bye.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Breaststroke was probably where Pan had to do some catching up, but they really threw everything at it, China. And congratulations to France. That was such a courageous relay swim.
Nick, you're so right. France didn't even make the Tokyo final, and here they win bronze. There's your finish. By the end, Pan had proven he was definitely the fastest freestyle leg.
Thank you for tuning in to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwe. Now we take another direction in terms of the conversations that we are having here on Good Morning Kenya, and we reflect on the happenings of 7th of August 1998. Where were you when the bomb blast happened here in Nairobi? To reflect on these matters, in studio I'm joined by Dr. Mustafa Yusuf Ali, who is the chair and founder of Horn Institute. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you, and happy to be here.
Yes, karibu sana. 1998, 7th August. Ulikuwa wapi?
I was just about 100 meters away from where the actual bombing took place.
Yes.
In my place of work. That is on Mfangano Street.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. And It must have been quite a scary moment, not only for you, but the people around the vicinity.
Yes, it was indeed. We just had a loud bang, and then when we went out of the streets to check, people were running everywhere. And when we went further to where smoke was coming from, we actually saw, you know, what had happened, that the U.S. Embassy had been targeted by terrorists, and the house adjacent, the building adjacent, the U.S. Embassy, Ufundi House, had been destroyed.
Yes. It was quite a moment a scary moment for the country. And also, before we get into the aspect of reflecting on these aspects, you have been recognized for your efforts in peace, justice, and creating harmony around the world. How has that been?
Well, my work started way back around that time, when personally I realized that there was a lot of there were a lot of challenges. Religion was being manipulated, instrumentalized to mobilize for war, for conflicts, to settle scores, and that kind of politicization of religion was causing a lot of problems within the Muslim community and without. And I thought then that it was important for us to engage in initiatives that bring communities together, that ensures cohesion, that focuses on addressing manipulation of religion and brainwashing young people, in joining groups that then cause fear, terror, and other things that are inimical to peace.
Now, coming back to the happenings of 1998 bombing, what do you think was, what do you think that moment served as a turning point for Kenya?
Yeah, 1998 was... Well, let me begin by saying that the problems of 1998, such an attack could have been prevented because radicalization started happening in Kenya much earlier than 1998. Many groups, radical groups, looked at Kenya because Kenya was an open society. It still is an open democratic society, so it was easy for them to come into to Kenya. But more importantly, when the radical groups were coming into Kenya, they were not coming here to target Kenya. They were coming here to target interests belonging to the United States of America, Israel, some of the Western countries that are located here in Kenya.
So Kenya was just a collateral.
Kenya was then a collateral, or rather bore the brunt of many of these attacks as collateral. And therefore, Kenya was not a primary target. It was a secondary target at that time. Of course, Kenya became a primary target much later when terrorists started attacking Westgate, Dusit, and other Kenyan targets.
Yes. How do you think the phenomenon of terrorism has changed, especially within the aspects? How has it changed the aspects of life within Kenya?
For the last 10 years, if you look at Kenya, particularly after 2013-14, the Westgate attack, you know, the searches in supermarkets, in places, and in critical infrastructure, where there's critical infrastructure, people are more alert to security and are taking a lot more precautions. That's one aspect. The second is there's been a lot of or rather significant and robust ideological pushback on ideologies that help the terrorists thrive or terrorism to thrive. The Kenyan communities are now much more aware about aspects of radicalization, what causes radicalization into extremism, into terrorism, and are working towards that. The other aspect is from the security agencies and government agencies. They are much more aware. They are fighting this war better. They are pushing back the ideology of terror better. If you look at particularly the National Counter-terrorism Center, NCTC, they, with the strategy, and I know we'll be talking about that later, the strategy that the NCTC put in place, the county action plans, and they work with communities around the country, are much more robust and are pushing back the ideology of terrorism, radicalization, and extremism.
How do you think that has affected the radicalization aspect? How do you think that has affected the interfaith relations?
First of all, the objective of groups like Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda is to create situations that lead to anarchy. And one of the things they do is to design attacks in ways that Muslims and Christians in this part of the world, where Muslims and Christians are the majority in the Horn of Africa, would start fighting each other, hating each other. In Asia, in the subcontinent, it would be Muslims and Hindus. In other places, it will be Muslim and Christians, just like it is here. And this is the objective of terrorist groups. And they have succeeded to some extent. If you recall some attacks in Mandera that was being carried out by Al-Shabaab, they actually were specifically targeting Christians in Mandera, in Garissa, in Wajir. And the reason why they were targeting Christians is they wanted Muslims and Christians to fight each other. They actually wanted to see Christians in other parts of Kenya rising up against Muslims. And having a religious war is very easy to start, but it's very difficult to end. But unfortunately, you know, the media also has fallen prey to or have been manipulated by terrorist groups in the reporting. And if you saw some of the reporting, particularly from the newspapers at that time, was that Muslims kill Christians in Mandera. Well, it was not Muslims killing Christians in Mandera. It was a terrorist group targeting Christians in Mandera in order to excite differences and even cause a communal conflict between Muslims and Christians.
So there was some sort of a perception issue when it came to reporting.
Oh yes, that has always been until today, and I'm glad that we actually notice a huge difference in today's reporting by the media and the way the media used to report 5 years, 6 years, 10 years back, particularly the Kenyan media. I think the Kenyan media is much more aware about the designs of terrorist groups, and I know there's been a lot of training and exposure given to journalists, the media institutions in the country, as much as it is provided for by faith communities, faith leaders, programs spearheaded by the National Counter-terrorism Center, and community relations. So this has helped a lot. Unlike the West, if you look at what, I'm going to say their names, BBC, CNN, Sky, Fox, are reporting in the West and say, you guys are far much more ahead than those media institutions in the way you are reporting terrorism, radicalization, and extremism.
Now, the aspect of seeing terrorism for what it is, have we, based on the happenings that have happened since 1998, can you say now people can see terrorism for what it is, not based on religious ideologies?
I think finally, yes. Kenyans especially are seeing terrorism for what it is, not a religious issue. Even though the mobilization, instrumentalization of violence may be done along, or you'll find religion being cited from time to time, but Kenyans are now smarter because of the awareness that have been created. They are able to see terrorism for what it is. Long before, whenever there was a terrorist attack in the country, the first thing people would do is to associate it with Islam. But now, many would not associate it with Islam as a religion, but will associate it with criminals. They may associate it with Muslims because a lot of people who have been carrying out these attacks at some point had Muslim names, but they know the difference between what is Islamic and what is Muslim, because Islamic and Muslim are two different things. One is a people, the other one is a body of knowledge. So there was this conflation that terrorism equals Islam. Secondly, is there are many other incidences of terrorism, extremism, that are not necessarily religious, are political, and we see that happening. And so Kenyans are much more aware. In fact, they're able to differentiate what the religious motivations for terrorism, the political motivations for terrorism, a social motivation for terrorism. And thirdly, and this is my last point on this, is we also see aspects of extremism, like what we saw in Shakahola in Kilifi. You know, this is a classic example of manipulation of religion, instrumentalization of religion for the purposes of greed and to challenge. Or not to challenge, and to brainwash people to harm themselves and to harm other people. And so extremism is not just about Islam as it used to be. And today people understand it as a social problem that needs to be addressed as such.
Yes. Well, speaking of that, what is the geopolitical dimension of terrorism in relations to Kenya and also across the world?
So this problem of terrorism was not, it's not a Kenyan problem, or rather was not a Kenyan problem. These issues were brought to us here. Historically, here in Kenya, and I would say in the Horn of Africa, even the entire African continent, we have not had a problem of terrorism and extremism. In fact, the brand of religions that are practiced across Africa, whether it is Islam, Christianity, and other indigenous traditions, spiritual traditions, they're very moderate and mainstream. Because of problems happening, particularly in the Middle East, which is political. You know, what is happening between Israel and Palestine is political. It is not a religious issue. Religions now are being instrumentalized as Islam, Judaism, and Christianity by politicians, by very crude people, fascists even, extremists. And we see these extremist politicians in the Middle East instrumentalizing religion. And unfortunately, because of proximity, Middle East is just next door. I was there last week and saw the somber mood, immersed myself in that mood where now the challenges that we are seeing in Palestine between Israel and Lebanon, Israel and Iran, and there are others who are stoking the fires there. This is what is happening today, has happened for a very long time, and we've had to suffer the consequences here in Kenya. The current geopolitical, geo-economic dynamics that we are seeing in the world, unfortunately, is such that if we don't pay particular attention to push back or to prevent these ideologies from permeating and coming to brainwash, confuse our people, especially the young people, we might roll back the gains that have been there. So what is going on in the Middle East today, for example? We see genocide unfolding in Gaza, enabled and with participation of some countries that are supposed to be the harbingers of human rights. We see United Nations resolutions being trampled on. This unpeaceful situation, this unfortunate situation may affect us if we let our guard down, and we need to be very careful. As a country, we need to constantly be on the lookout and enable the awareness that have been created to prevent radicalization into extremism, and particularly the manipulation of religion from taking place. And first of all, a lot of work has been done. Excellent work by some government agencies, by communities, and this work need to continue in order to prevent what would then become another wave of terrorism from taking root here in the country and the region.
How do you rate Kenya's counter-terrorism efforts and collaborations with other major players across the globe?
I think Kenya's counter-terrorism efforts have been top-notch, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. 8, 9, 10 years ago, we were in deep trouble in this country. The ideology that was the in thing amongst the youth, young people, was the ideology of Al-Shabaab. If you spoke about jihad in 2013 in this country, people will understand that to mean you are either supporting Al-Shabaab or Al-Shabaab is the one that is controlling this ideology, this concept that are religious, so to speak. And at that time, many young people understood some of these concepts, like jihad, like the caliphate, al-hijra. These are Islamic constructs that I'm sharing here, just a few. They understood this concept from the point of view of Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, and the extremist organizations. Today, we cannot say that that is the case. There have been a lot of education, awareness creation. So when someone is speaking about jihad, one understands what jihad is. Jihad is not that jihad that we are seeing across the border in Somalia. If young people, if any of these terrorist groups come to recruit here in Kenya, young people understand jihad better than they did 10 years ago. Courtesy of the work that has been done between the government and communities across the country.
Speaking, you mentioned Middle East, and one of the things that comes out is what is going there. And how is the situation in Middle East affecting the global counterterrorism efforts across the world?
Yeah, Middle East is a sad story at the moment. There's a lot of, there is significant emotional attachment with the Middle East with regard or with respect to all religions. So you as Christian have some emotional attachment to the Middle East. That's the birthplace of Christianity. I, as a Muslim, have significant emotional attachment with the Middle East. That is the birthplace of Islam. The Jews have significant emotional attachment with the Middle East because that is the birthplace of Judaism. It is the birthplace of what we call the Abrahamic religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And because of that, anything that goes on in the Middle East affects us emotionally. And what has happened is, and I say this from a point of information, having spent a lot of time tracking and following ideologies that are emanating from the Middle East, religion has been manipulated for political purposes in the Middle East. So even the war that we are seeing today between Israel and others in the region, the agenda has been to paint that war with the religious paint. And even the responses, the mass mobilization in the West. So you have fascist extremist groups that are using that unfortunate incident, a genocide that is going on there, to try and convince adherents of all faiths, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, that it is a religious war. We know it is not a religious war. And therefore, because they know, the architects of this manipulation, propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation know that you and I have emotional attachment to the Middle East. And so they want to influence us from that perspective. That being a political problem between Israel and Palestine has affected. We've seen the legitimization of terrorism and extremism, including here in Kenya. The last time we had the Dusit attack, there was the terrorists tried to legitimize the attack by saying Jerusalem is being occupied. It is upon us to create more awareness and to educate ourselves that it is not about religion, it is about geopolitical issues. The double standards, unfortunately, that I am seeing as a scholar of international relations, conflict analysis and resolution, is that there is significant double standards by governments around the world on what to do to resolve this problem between Israel and Palestine. And first of all, it's not just a war between Israel and Palestine. You have a community. There's, at the moment in Gaza, you have a community that is being pummeled. Almost 40,000 people being murdered in the most horrible ways. And that is causing a lot of pain and concerns around the world, not just to Muslims, but any human rights, any person who respects human rights. And so this is bound to affect the mood, the sentiments, and even the way people react to certain issues. Just on a pointer to this is there are some countries that have taken very good initiatives to try and resolve these issues, while others are inflaming the problems in the Middle East. Others trying to do their best to actually help in the resolution of that particular conflict. And this is where we have the key. If that problem is going to be resolved peacefully, and we go back to the United Nations resolutions and agreements, I think I can comfortably say that up to 70–80% reasons for terrorism, extremism, and violence are going to be resolved.
Actually, I was going to come to initiatives, but now by the Kenyan government. What do you think are the initiatives that the government has implemented to prevent extremism and violent attacks of terrorism within the country?
Yeah, actually plenty. And it's just that people don't know. The general public will not know. Also, it is by design that the general public will not know what the Kenyan government is doing, everything that it is doing to prevent terrorism and extremism. Because if you go out there and talk about if I was in government, I'm not in government, but if I was in government and I am going out and say this is my strategy to combating terrorism, then the terrorists themselves will look at the strategy, and therefore I believe there are so many potential attacks in the works being planned that are being addressed, that are being stopped on their tracks, and the public don't come to know about these attacks.
It's one of the things actually that tell about the efforts of the security forces within the country to prevent these attacks.
The fact that if I was a member of the public, the fact that there are less and less terrorist attacks in the context of what is going on in the world, in the Middle East, across in Somalia, 3-4 days ago, 5 days ago, there was a major suicide attack in Mogadishu. And there have been so many other attacks in Somalia. The fact that the fact that Kenya is not being attacked at the moment the way it used to be 8-9 years ago should tell us that a lot is being done to stop. And security agencies will not come out. A lot of them are faceless. They work in secrecy to protect this country. And then there are those that are Also working with communities. Those are the ones that you see. It's not that they are taking credit for what others are doing, but those are the ones that are mandated, like the National Counter-terrorism Center is mandated to work with communities. And they are doing a splendid job. They are doing an excellent job. And you just need to visit their website, isn't it? It's actually a public institution, so you can actually see what they are doing, and have done a great deal. And over the years, as an observer of these issues, as a scholar of terrorism and violent extremism, radicalization, I have seen over the years that this particular agency have sharpened their skills, have better human resource, that are working better with communities to stop, prevent, and delegitimize the ideology of terrorism.
Yes. Absolutely. We are going to take a short break. Don't go too far. This conversation continues shortly. Stay with us.
You only need to look at the likes of Mondo Duplantis to see how it usually goes the way of inspiration once they've won the competition. Here she goes then, the two-time Olympic champion with her final throw of the competition. She's hit that hard too! It's not quite as far, but it's another big throw. And Valerie Allman is the Olympic champion for the United States of America. And she hugs the woman that she inherited the crown from as the dominant woman in discus.
Our language does all of this and more. Na ni lugha ambayo kila Mkenya anajua. The more the milk, the better the chai. Chai kweli ina Brookside Dairy Best.
The superstar of the field events always delivers. I mean, he just gets the bend in the pole, the speed as he goes up, perfectly vertical.
Praise the Lord. My name is Pastor Tim Mwangi, and I want to invite you every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1 for the Angaza Show. This is the place of bold conversations, discussions, testimonies, and life-changing, transformative, informative gospel show. It is now a norm. Friday ni siku ya sherehe, Saturday ni siku ya sherehe, Sunday ni siku ya kukunywa supu ukitoa hangover.
You know, when you wake up from hangover, the first thing you go to a lock.
Yeah.
That afternoon sikuenda kutoa lock.
I didn't even know how I moved from Kariobangi to Westland. Niliamka mahali
Nauliza soja huku ni wapi? Nauliza wewe unataka huku kukue wapi?
Where we also play you the best and the latest in gospel music, inspiring songs and inspiring conversations and testimonies. Only on KBC Channel 1. So see you there and thank you for always tuning in. God bless you.
Thank you for staying with us. My name is Mike Migo and you're watching Good Morning Kenya. We are talking about or reflecting on the journey that we have taken since the bombings of 1998 in Sudan. I'm having this conversation with Dr. Mustafa Yusuf Ali. And one thing I would want you to talk about is the establishment of the National Security Strategy for Countering Violent Extremism. What motivated that?
The reason why the National Counter-Violent Extremism Strategy was initiated, designed and adopted and implemented was precisely to do what should have happened a lot earlier, 10, 20 years ago, to address the issue of radicalization into extremism, into terrorism, and to protect the country against these nefarious activities and ideologies that were permeating Kenya, that many young people were adopting in some cases as a way of life. And to also create awareness amongst the Kenyan population about the dangers of extremism and terrorism. Yes.
Now, what would you say are the challenges that are facing the country currently, arising from the obstacles that may hinder these efforts of fighting terrorism so far?
There are still a lot of challenges, of course. And even as the government and the Kenyan communities fight terrorism, radicalization, and extremism, they are not without challenges. They are not without hiccups. They are not without setbacks. One is I guess it's a good problem, Kenya being a democratic, open society. It's very easy for people who don't mean well to come and set camp in Kenya, to come and or to push their ideologies in the country, because there is freedom of speech, of expression, of assembly, and therefore it's easier for them to come here. People always ask, why is Ethiopia not, why is it harder for terrorist groups to attack in Ethiopia? And it's just because Kenya is an open, free society. And Kenya has intentionally decided to have this country free, democratic, and for people to enjoy their freedoms. It just means that it is much harder, much more difficult for security agencies to fight terrorism in a free society. Believe me, in authoritarian dictatorships, it's a lot easier to fight terrorism than in a free, democratic society such as Kenya. So that's one. The second point is the proximity. We live very close to, well, let me say this. Kenya is at the center of now 3 conflict systems. The Horn of Africa conflict system, the Middle East conflict system, and the Central Africa conflict system. And there is a 4th conflict system. We call it the regional conflict complex. The Horn, the Middle East, Central Africa, and the Sahel. And we are in the mix of this. And you see the number of refugees Kenya are hosting. Because it is a peaceful, open society, and refugees prefer to come to Kenya. If a country like Ethiopia collapses today, we will be welcoming 2 million refugees in a matter of months into Kenya. And this in itself is a challenge for the country. The other challenge or setback is human, financial resources. Kenya does not have sufficient financial resources to address, to prevent, and to push back all these challenges related to extremism, gang violence. And it has to depend on the goodwill or the resources that other countries, the richer countries, providing. And they don't always come forward and provide all the resources that Kenya requires. Even though this problem of terrorism and extremism, as I said earlier, is not manufactured here in Kenya, it is manufactured in Afghanistan, largely what we are facing now during the last 10 years of the Cold War, because of the big power competition, the West and the former Soviet Union. And this is why all the time we as scholars, practitioners are calling particularly the West, to take more responsibilities to help a country like Kenya and others in Africa address the root causes of terrorism, radicalization, and violent extremism. There are many other challenges in terms of if you look at legislation, if you look at the policies that are there. So whenever a government wants to pass a legislation, communities might come up and say, you are targeting us. And so that becomes so... It slows down the legislation of laws that would address terrorism and violent extremism, because perhaps communities are not sufficiently aware about what the government intends to do. And so the process of consultations takes time. Kenya being a free, open, democratic country that has to always consult before it passes laws, it slows down the fight against terrorism. But it's a good thing, because then the government consults in order to bring the society, the communities together, and together then they can fight terrorism. These are just some of the challenges that we see, and these are the ones that have been there for the last so many years. Today there are many young people that are returning from theaters of violence, from Daesh, from held areas, Syria, Iraq, or parts of North Africa. Many young people that had joined Al-Shabaab have gone there. I've seen there is no jihad that is being fought in Somalia, so they want to come back. You know, what do you do with these young people that were brainwashed, disinformed to join these groups? So it is a major challenge, and the government has to deal with these issues, and has to deal with these issues in a humane way, in ways that is not counterproductive, in ways that ensures that the problems of terrorism are continuously being addressed. So these are major challenges. They are not easy. Problems to deal with.
Yes, looking to the future, what do you see as what is the future of Kenya in terms of fighting terrorism and extremism? What are the future of initiatives?
I think because Kenya has learned and has put in place very robust mechanisms to actually address terrorism, which are working, which are succeeding. If Kenya would continue to go on that path, if the agencies that are responsible for fighting terrorism, extremism, will continue going on that path, I think they will succeed to a large extent to prevent attacks, to prevent radicalization into extremism. There will be need for additional resourcing to be provided to address these challenges, especially now that the current geopolitical dynamics globally happening in the Middle East. The world increasingly becoming multipolar world. Big power and middle power competition rising. The world moving from the fourth to the fifth wave of terrorism, which will be a combination of a religious and political wave. There will be need for the country to still invest more resources, research, and capacities and abilities to fight terrorism and extremism.
Yes, Dr. Your final shot.
My final shot is to, and I know this doesn't happen always, we need to thank and we need to congratulate the men and women who are in the front lines from the security agencies in whatever capacities, including pushing back the ideologies of terrorism. We need to congratulate them. And we need to thank those community leaders that have worked tirelessly, sometimes risking their lives, coming out of their comfort zones to fight and to push back the ideology of terrorism.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Your time is very much appreciated.
Most welcome.
That is Dr. Mustafa Yusuf Ali, Chair and founder of Horn Institute, talking to us about, as we reflect on the events of 1998 bombings and how far we have come. This is where we cap this conversation. My name is Mike Migu. Don't go too far. Vivian Ndegwa is coming back with more. Stay with us.
The naming of the remaining batch of cabinet by President William Ruto
Born in 1929 in Elementaita in the Rift Valley, where his family had settled after immigrating from Kiambu, the young Karume dropped out of school early and was lucky to join Gene School Kabete, later Kenya Institute of Administration, now the Kenya School of Government, where he was awarded a certificate in business studies. As such, he entered the business arena at an early stage, selling charcoal, timber, hides and skins into liquor sales. While it was in this beer business that Karume would make a mark as an entrepreneur, having started to operate bars during the colonial period, it was his leadership of the quasi-political Gikuyu Embu Meru Association Gema that would catapult him into the inner circle of the President Jomo Kenyatta era politics. Gema had been formed in 1971 initially as a welfare organization. Karume would later become the face of the organization. He was elected chairman with Keheka Kimani as the organizing secretary in 1973. While Karume had not gone for elective politics, his position as Gema chairman gave him immense power. That is the reason why he became a central figure during the 1977 Change the Constitution movement. Karume joined politics in 1974 as a nominated member of parliament, and in the three subsequent elections held in 1979, 1983, and 1988, Karume vied for and won the Kiambaa constituency seat. In July 1980, at a leaders' conference at the Kenya Institute of Administration, the government decided to abolish all tribal unions in the country in the interest of peace, love and unity. Gema was proscribed, leaving Karume with no regional political platform. Karume was reluctant to join the leading opposition force Forum for the Restoration of Democracy Forward. Instead, he formed the Democratic Party with Mwai Kibaki and John Keane on 31st December 1991. In 1992, Karume lost his Kiambasi to a newcomer, Kamau Isharia of Fordasili. He decided to concentrate on his business enterprises. After losing 2 elections on a DP ticket in 1992 and 1997, Karume decided to abandon the party. For the 2002 election, he won the seat again, but now on a KANU ticket, supporting its presidential candidate, Uhuru Kenyatta. In 2004, President Kibaki appointed Karume Minister for Special Programs. At the time, Kenya was facing severe drought, and Karume's task was to work with humanitarian agencies and liaise with other government departments to get food and water to the affected communities. A few months later, he was transferred to the Ministry of Defense. During his tenure, Karume renegotiated the training of British troops in Kenya. At the 2007 elections, he represented the PNU coalition led by President Kibaki, but lost the seat to Stanley Munga Githunguri of KANU. In 2009, he released an autobiography titled Beyond Expectations, From Charcoal to Gold. In February 2012, Karume died at a Nairobi hospital. Jackie Meru, The Cabinet.
Staying with us. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Vivian Ndegwa, and on this segment we get to talk about manufacturing. It is a key sector in Kenya's economic development, and it is also quite diverse, and for that reason we want to just take a keen look on it as a topic. And joining me for that is one Peter Ndishu. Peter Ndishu is the manufacturing director, Hako Industries. Good morning, Peter.
Morning, Vivian.
You're well this morning?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. When it comes to manufacturing, as much as it's a key sector in the economic development of Kenya, it is still a growing market, you know, right here in Kenya. Maybe what is being done to steer ahead it further?
Okay, I think what we need to do in manufacturing more is in terms of supply chain, focusing more on diversifying the supply chain. Because if we localize our supply, then it becomes easier for us to get the materials on time, and also maybe to improve on the sustainability aspect on the manufacturing ecosystem. So what we need, like what we learned from COVID 2019, we faced a lot of challenges in terms of getting those materials from overseas. But what we need now to do more on is develop the local suppliers who can give us some of those materials, like say the vegetable oils or the natural oils. They are mostly locally available and also regionally available in Africa. So if we can develop those suppliers, and especially the SMEs, the women-led enterprises, we get those materials locally, then it becomes easier because as we speak today, the shipping costs are rising day by day. So if we get those materials locally, then it will be easier to manufacture here locally and also to support the local
vendors in terms of supply of those materials. Yes. Maybe what opportunities are there in manufacturing at the moment?
Opportunities are there because most of the products, some of them are imported, but we can manufacture them locally. So what we need to do is to to support the SME sector, and by doing so, like now the essential oils, most of if you go to most of the shelves on the key accounts, you find they are imported blends, but those can be manufactured locally. Because what they do, even the overseas guys, they buy these materials locally here in Kenya or in Africa, that they go and package. So we can do more in that here in Kenya.
Yeah, you know, from what you're saying, we can do more here when it comes to manufacturing, but why is it that we are not doing it? Maybe as an industry, what challenges are we facing, you know, when it comes to manufacturing as an industry, in that we are not manufacturing more, you know, in the country?
So what we need to do is to get government support, and especially with the SMEs that are upcoming. Like now our government agencies like Kenya Bureau of Standards, they need to support them more in terms of getting the quality that the manufacturers require. So if they can be supported in terms of how to refine or how to get that natural oil in the specifications that manufacturers require, then it becomes easier for us to source locally and also make products out of those oils or those materials.
Yeah. I mentioned that you are the manufacturing director for HACO Industry.
Yes.
It's only right if you tell us what HACO deals with.
Okay, HACO is a leading FMCG company in East and Central Africa. We deal with, what we manufacture is personal care and home care products, and also plastics. And we export these products into, currently we are doing 10 countries in Africa. This year we want also to expand our distribution into other 5 countries in Africa, majorly in West Africa, Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria, and also in Ethiopia. And also at the south, we also want to focus South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sustainable manufacturing, you know, is the goal.
Yes.
You know, it's the way to go. When you talk about sustainable manufacturing, what exactly are we looking at?
Majorly is the whole or the entire supply chain. And especially like the materials that you are getting from the suppliers. Are they sustainably sourced? Are they ethically made or processed? So from the raw materials, because manufacturing is mainly the 4 M's. We call them 4 M's in manufacturing. That is the material, the machine, the method, and the and the man. That's the labor. So where you are getting your materials, you have to get the materials from a sustainable source. A supplier who is practicing sustainability in terms of the processing and also in terms of the environmental impact, who is avoiding the negative impacts of the environment. So what we need to do is to make sure that the whole supply chain, because the process of converting those materials into the final product, there are some processing that happens, or to convert the raw materials now into the finished product. So how you are doing it is very important. Like now the materials, if you are sourcing natural materials, then you come and convert them into the end product. What process are you using? What energy are you using? Like now the renewable energy. So manufacturers should focus more on investing in renewable energy like solar, so that you also cut down in terms of costs and you also reduce the emissions that contribute to the global warming. So what we need to do as manufacturers is to focus the whole supply chain, where you are getting the materials, how they come in. Like now as a business, what we usually do, or what we have started doing, is also to focus on the emissions that comes through from the process, and also the materials that we are using. Like now, what we are also focusing on is to build the naturality of our products. Like our lotions, what we have done is we have moved from 67% natural materials to a tune of 90%. And these materials we are sourcing locally. So what manufacturers should do is to focus on that end consumer. That consumer who is using your product, does your product have any negative impact to his skin or to his body? So manufacturers should focus on that, as well as the 3 Ps of sustainability, that is the planet, the people, and also the profit. So all that chain has to be well focused in terms of reducing the emissions so that we also reduce the impact of the global warming.
Yeah, so as a company, you are incorporating renewable energy into your operations as it is at the moment.
Yes, what we did in 2021, we have already installed 445 panels of solar panels, which contributes around 40% of our daytime power demand. So this year also, because we have 2 plants in Hako, so this year we are also installing a solar system in the other plant. So we are focusing to use renewable energy in our processing. The other thing that we also need to do is the recycling, because we have plastic factory. So what manufacturers should also do is to ensure that we are recycling the plastics, and also to have the post-consumer take-back schemes, so that whatever bottle that you buy, once you use that bottle, you can return it to the channel that you bought. Then we incentivize that. You get a discount like 10% on your second purchase once you bring back the bottle. Then that bottle is reused, so that we reduce on virgin material use, and especially on plastics. So what we are also doing as a business, and this should also be done by other manufacturers, is that take-back scheme, post-consumer take-back scheme, and also promoting the circular economy. So we have partnered with some vendors who collect the waste from the landfills. Then they go sort that waste, crush it, and then pelletize into plastic material, then sell to us back. So by doing so, we are reducing the impact of plastic landfill impact by using recycled material or regrind material to do our plastic bottles.
All right.
Yes.
All right. On that note, we take a short break. Don't you go too far. We'll be back to continue with our conversation.
You need to look at the likes of Mondo Duplantis to see how it usually goes the way of inspiration once they've won the competition. Here she goes then, the 2-time Olympic champion with her final throw of the competition. She's hit that hard too! It's not quite as far, but it's another big throw. And Valerie Allman is the Olympic champion for the United States of America. And she hugs the woman that she inherited the crown from as the dominant woman in discus.
Our language does all of this and more. Na ni lugha ambayo kila Mkenya anajua. The more the milk, the better the chai. Chai kweli in a Brookside Dairy Best.
The superstar of the field events always delivers. I mean, he just gets the bend in the pole, the speed as he goes up, perfectly vertical.
Praise the Lord. My name is Pastor Tim Mwangi, and I want to invite you every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1 for the Angaza Show. This is the place of bold conversations, discussions, testimonies, and life-changing, transformative, informative gospel show. It is now a norm. Friday ni siku ya sherehe, Saturday ni siku ya sherehe, Sunday ni siku ya kukunywa supu ukitoa hangover.
You know, when you wake up from hangover, the first thing you kutoa lock.
Yeah.
That afternoon sikuenda kutoa lock.
I didn't even know how I moved from Kariobangi to Westland. Niliamka mahali, nauliza soja, huku ni wapi? Nauliza, wewe unataka huku kukue wapi?
Where we also play you the best and the latest in gospel music, inspiring songs and inspiring conversations and testimonies. Only on KBC Channel 1. So see you there, and thank you for always tuning in. God bless you.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now, if I may ask you, Mr. Ndishu, how has the manufacturing industry changed over the years?
The manufacturing sector has kind of revolutionized by especially the challenges that we are also facing. Like now the tax regime that the government has put in place or imposed on us, and also the challenges on the cost of production. Like energy, that is both the electricity and fuel has gone up by 36%, so that is impacting on our production cost. And what we need to do, or what we are asking the government to do, is to make sure that we are also involved, or we are also consulted as a sector, so that we advise the government on the various taxes that they are bringing on board, how they are affecting us. They should also listen to the manufacturers, so that we get to support our consumers, because the taxes that are imposed on manufacturing, they are also translated to the end consumer price. So to make our products affordable, because these products are not only sold in Kenya, they are sold across Africa, and we need to have, in terms of the price, it needs to be affordable to the end consumer. And as you know, with the current economy, the disposable income is shrinking day by day. So if again the products are also expensive, then it becomes difficult for the consumers to pick your product, and as well now that has a ripple effect on our performance as a sector. So if the government can listen more to the manufacturing sector, so that we make our products affordable, we create more employment, and we also support GDP as to what the government want or is calling manufacturers to do. Yep.
Is this something you've tried to work on? Is this a conversation that maybe is ongoing with the government, or we're not yet there?
We can say yes, the conversation is there, but the only problem is that at times the issues that we raise to the government are not listened to. Because like now the finance bill, that was the 2024 finance bill, it had come with a lot of taxes. But through KAM, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, KAM tried to lobby through those taxes, but they were not listened to. So what we are calling for is if the government can listen to the players, then it becomes easier for us to agree on the way forward, and also to make sure that the taxes are not punitive to the industry and affecting the sector in general.
Yeah, but the bill was withdrawn.
Yeah, it was withdrawn.
It
was withdrawn, but there are some, like now what the government wanted to introduce last year, the EGMS, the stickers that were supposed to be put on each and every cosmetic bottle. So that will, although it was given a 1-year stay, but we don't know whether it will come back again. But if implemented, then it will impact on our product costs, because that EGMS sticker was around 0.5 Kenya shillings. So, and if you check the other industry players in other countries, it's not there. So that will increase the price of our products to the disadvantage of the Kenyan players, because we are exporting these products to other markets.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. How do you ensure quality control, throughout the process of the manufacturing process, and at the same time also ensuring it's environmentally friendly?
So as a business, what we do is we use reputable suppliers, which we have developed over time. So what we do is we give them specifications of the quality we want, because our system is building quality along the pipeline. So we start with the input materials. We give suppliers, this is the specification of this material, the quality specification that we want. So once we get that material, we also test it before we use it. We test and ensure that it conforms to the specification that we want as a business. So if the materials conform to the specification that we want, it gets to the manufacturing process, we also expect the end product also to conform with the same specifications. So over time, we have developed our partners in terms of the supply chain, and we use at least 3. We have a policy that each and every material, we have at least 3 suppliers. So if this supplier is not able to avail the material, then we have a backup plan with the other supplier. So we have been doing that over and over again, and we ensure that we meet regularly with these suppliers, and we evaluate them, and we also measure them in terms of the supplies that you have given us over a quarter. This met specification, this was out of specification. So we work together with them, we partner with them. They are part of our business. So we partner with them to make sure that what we want, they are able to give us in terms of the quality specifications. Then we have a fully-fledged quality assurance department that does the inspection from the point of receipt of these materials all the way to production process and also to the packing process. So we ensure quality is built along those stations.
And what maybe are the risks associated, with supply chain, which you've just explained, the disruption of the supply chain? What risks maybe could be associated with that?
Supply chain disruptions are persistent. So what we do as a business is to have a backup plan in terms of having 3 suppliers. So if supplier X is not having the material that you want, you can go to supplier Y. Then the other thing that we also do is to make sure that we get multiple suppliers, and especially local suppliers and also regional suppliers, to make sure that that material that we are looking for, instead of us importing, because like now we are facing a lot of challenges. Anything coming out of Europe, there's a lot of challenges in terms of shipping and the shipping cost. So what we do is to make sure that we can, if that material can be available locally or regionally, then we adopt that supplier to make sure that, because if there is a local, like now I can give you an example, shea butter, raw shea butter we used to get from USA. So what we did, we have already recruited 2 suppliers. We get from Uganda here and also from Ghana. So it's easier, because if you ship from Ghana to Nairobi or to Mombasa, it will take you, say, 40 days. But if you are shipping from US or from Europe, it takes a maximum 3 months. So that period you have to shorten it. And we are doing that also in the perspective of reducing the emissions. Because if you are getting that material locally, that distance from Uganda to Kenya is very short compared to Europe to Kenya. So with a mindset of reducing the emissions to the environment, we are now getting most of our materials locally or regionally. And that has really helped us in terms of sorting the supply chain disruptions.
I get you on that. When we talk about the manufacturing sector, we cannot fail to talk about the workers, because without them, really, there will be a disruption. They take a huge chunk of, making it work. So when we look at workers and their safety, is enough being done to ensure that their safety is being looked at?
As a responsible manufacturer, you need to take care of your staffs. Because consumers are your business. Even the employees that you are working with, the staffs, those are your first consumers. So you have to ensure that the workplace is safe. Because like what we are doing as a business, we have adopted the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Yeah. We are a member of UN Global Compact. And some of the SDGs that we have adopted strategically as a business is SDG 8, number 8, which is decent work and economic empowerment. Then SDG 12, which is responsible consumption and production. And also SDG 17, which is partnership for the goals. So SDG 8, decent work and economic empowerment, focuses more on like the staff that you are engaging. So you have to have a decent workplace, a safe workplace. So the first goal or the first priority is our employees. So we have to ensure that the environment they are working in is safe. Then once we have ensured that, we go to the consumers, we go to the communities surrounding the environment that is surrounding where we are doing business. Like now, in terms of the communities that is surrounding our business, we don't discharge any effluent or wastewaters to the environment.
There's that too, and we've had, complaints of such, whereby the manufacturing companies are not really caring about the community around where they do their manufacturing process.
Which is very low, because as a manufacturer you need to be socially responsible. So what we do is to make sure that any effluent water or any wastage or wastewaters that we are generating, we contain it and we also reuse it. We don't discharge it to the environment. We reuse it. So what manufacturers should also ensure is to make sure that the communities around your premises are taken care of. The other big one is on the products that we are doing. So what you need to do is to ensure the safety of that consumer by using natural materials. Any material of concern, like us as a business, we work with the Kenya Bureau of Standard, we work with EU material regulation body that give us highlights that this material is a material of concern in terms of health concerns. We withdraw or we remove those materials from our formulations. We don't even wait for Kenya Bureau of Standards to come and knock on our doors. We act immediately. So by so doing, you are protecting the end consumer. The materials that you are using, how biodegradable are they? How are you ensuring that you are mitigating the negative impacts to the environment? If the materials are biodegradable, then you're also saving the environment for future generations. Yes.
Right. Now, when it comes to technology has really grown over the years. Maybe what are some advancements, technological advancements, that have impacted the production efficiency?
In terms of technology advancement, what we are doing as a business, because things are evolving. We were using manual operations. Now with serving 10 countries in Africa, manual operations cannot sustain the demand. So what we are doing as a business is to do the automation. So automation will come with some technological advancements, like what we are calling the Internet of Things, the artificial intelligence, the robotics and all that. So that advancement or that kind of advanced technology is coming up with, or is coming with, some efficiency building or enhancement in terms of production efficiency. Because like in manual operations, you find maybe a line of 10 people will give you maybe an output of, say, 10,000 pieces by the end of the day. But with an automation line, it will give you maybe 4 times of that. Then the other big advantage with automation, you can do what we call the digital transformation. Instead of waiting for manual correction of data, you can put some sensors in the manufacturing machines, and you get real-time data correction and analytics in terms of what you want to to get out of that machine. So you get real-time data monitoring, and also which eases your process controls. Yeah.
So it has really been help to the efficiency of production
processes.
All right. Yes. You know, research is very, very important. Yeah. You know, when it comes to any manufacturing operations. Yeah. So how big are you when it comes to the research and development bit of the operations?
We have a fully-fledged research and development department because research is very essential to the manufacturing process, because with research and development you are able to you get to know what your consumers' needs are and how can you best address those needs. So research and development is very critical for a business, because like the material science, these materials or the chemicals or the ingredients that you use to make a product, you have to research how biodegradable are they in terms of the natural aspects of that material. Then in terms of formulation, is the research and development, if you want to come up with a new product development, is the research and development department that does that. By doing exploratory researches, you go to consumers and get to know what their needs are. Then you come and form that to be a project to address the needs of those consumers. So the research and development is very critical. And also in terms of in terms of testing those materials, is the same research and development that works. Like now, if you want to claim a medicinal claim with your product, is the same research that will team up or partner with dermatologists, local dermatologists, or some hospitals. So it's the same research and development that does that kind of work. So it's very critical to have a research and development, and a vibrant one, because you have also to keep up with the trends, the upcoming trends. You have to work with the suppliers of those materials. They give you the upcoming trends, upcoming raw materials, or the changes that they have done in the raw materials, and then they pick that and also incorporate that in our formulations.
And speaking about trends, maybe what are some of the trends in manufacturing and sustainability that you are excited about as someone who's in that sector of manufacturing?
The one that that is very exciting and which is a bit pivotal for us is environmental sustainability. Because as a business, we need to be concerned on what we are emitting to the environment. So what we do as a business, like the big one that we have done so far, is to improve our formulations in terms of the natural aspects. Like our Amara lotion, which was voted number 13 last year, top 100 brands loved by women. We have moved it from 67% in terms of the ingredient makeup to 90% natural raw materials. So by doing so, we are safeguarding the end consumer. So if you apply our lotion, that moisturization is from natural oils. We are not using synthetic ingredients. It's from natural oils, sourced from Kenya, and some sourced regionally, like from Ghana and Uganda here.
All right, we need to wind up on this conversation. If you may just give us your final remarks on it.
My final remarks is to our beloved Kenyan government. The call is manufacturing has to support our GDP to a tune of 20% by 2030. We are currently at 7%. So we expect the government to support manufacturing sector in terms of reducing the taxes, so that we can do more, we can sell more, and also create employment. And by creating employment, we are also supporting that SDG number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. So by so doing, we'll progressively hit that target of 20% to the GDP.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. We appreciate your presence on the show today.
Welcome.
That was Peter Ndishu, the Manufacturing Director, Hako Industries. And this is where we call it a wrap right here on Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for staying with us from the beginning of the show, which was at around 6:30 a.m. to this moment. Right now, I want to hand you over to the Senate proceedings that will be beginning within no time from now. My name is Vivian Dagwa. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.
Safaricom, proud sponsor of Team Kenya at the Olympics.
But it's going to be gold for Great Britain. Keely Hodgkinson finally wins the title. A fabulous run from the front at the bell. Mary Mora couldn't go with her this time. It's a silver for Kenya, bronze for Ethiopia. She's finally got it right. Second at the Olympics, second at the World Championships, second at the Commonwealth Games, but now finally first on the biggest stage of all.
But it wasn't over yet for Salsabia, relieved to secure the 8th spot in the final as the fastest loser from the seeding.
What an ending of that competition. It happened.
Safaricom, proud sponsor of Team Kenya at the Olympics. France welcomes the world for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. In this edition, heroic Team Kenya is pushing boundaries as well.
An Olympic gold medal.
More significantly, Kenya is intent on claiming victory at the quadrennial sporting event comprising of 45 sports that will be staged from 24th of July through to the 11th of August. Here comes a dose for everyone.
Yes, it is!
For the athlete, it is chasing a dream of a lifetime. And for the fan, witness history in the making, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.